Football is back, and BetOnline is your number one information source for all your sports wagering info with all the up-to-the-minute stats, news, scores, and matchup breakdowns. Get the latest game odds, spreads, and totals from the NFL and college football at your fingertips with BetOnline's real-time updates on statistics, news, and odds. From week 1 all the way to the college football playoff and Super Bowl, BetOnline gives you access to the best promotions and contests available anywhere online. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code Bleav to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Again, that's BLEAV. BetOnline, where the game starts. Bleav in the Arizona Cardinals. It is the Arizona Cardinals centric specific show, where, of course, we talk about the Arizona Cardinals here in the Phoenix metropolitan area. I am one of your co-hosts. I am Javon J. Love Adams, and with me, as always, is a man who played in the National Football League. He is also an author, and he is a motivational speaker as well. I'm talking about none other than Ed Smith. What is good, my brother?
My mind is blown, bruh. I know you sat and watched the game like I did. I did not expect to see that at all.
I did not expect to see it at all either. And of course, we're talking about the week 3 matchup against the Dallas Cowboys, and the Cardinals came out victorious. There was never really a doubt. 28-16 over the Dallas Cowboys, who now have a loss to add to their record. I mean, if I was looking at it, and I listened to most of the game because I was, I was out and about running, and then came back and I was able to catch the second half moving forward. And there are a couple of things that stood out to me, but that's nitpicking, and it's good to be able to nitpick in a victory as opposed to a loss. But there are a few things that I definitely want to cover with you, because they never trailed at any point in this game. Never trailed at any point. So that's something to definitely keep in mind. So so Cardinals take down the Cowboys. We got to eat a little bit of crow, and then we're gonna talk about how they started strong, but also finished strong. I want to find out what impressed you, and also, does one win not equal tanking? And then will fans hold on to the Ticks for the next home game because they were able to maybe protect the nest a little bit? So let's get to that. Eating a little bit of crow, we have definitely been, I think, realistic is the way I look at it, based upon what we see that the team is, the competition coming in. And when you look at the sample size, especially the second half of the game against the Giants that I talked about, and then when we see about some of the conservative type of nature that happened in that second half of the Commanders game, but that didn't seem to be the case for the most part here in this game. So I guess I got to eat crow, because I'm one. I thought it was going to be not a bloodbath, but definitely by our scores, we didn't think. What did I say? 24 or 24-9? No, 14. I think I said 30-14 or something along those lines. So I didn't think it was going to be close on the Cardinal side of things, but I was definitely wrong. What say you?
Eat the crow. I always say I like mine with a little hot sauce. The Cardinals came out, and from the very get, they controlled both sides of the fronts. I mean, their offensive line held up. They ran the ball, Jay, on a defense that I thought was going to feast on us, They actually frustrated the Cowboys. You could see Parsons was out there trying to figure out what was going on. The one thing that does stand, there's a few things that stand out to me, but a couple things, Jay. We ran a total of about 51 plays, 30 rushing, and Dobbs had 21 passing attempts. That's not a lot of plays, especially to generate that much offense. You saw they had big plays, big running plays.
With Joshua Dobbs, that one running play in the first half, I want to say it was the first quarter, that big one. They only got three points from it, but still, that was 3 points, but it was a big play.
Yeah, and then they just kept at it. Rondell Moore, big run. I mean, we controlled the line of scrimmage. We ran the ball, never had to get out of, and it looked like we felt comfortable. It looked like we were the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And like I said, and then on the defensive side of the ball, Dak was ugly Dak all day. Dink and dunk Dak. I saw them last week, and he was efficient. They were getting up to the line of scrimmage, everything was right in front of him. He looked flustered. And when you think about that, I was like, how did our front do that to them after what they did? They got the weapons with Pollard, and he ran the ball well, 23 carries for 122 yards, but he was their only basically effective weapon. And
Right.
I'm just so surprised at how we dominated both lines of scrimmage and controlled with that limited amount of plays. And then with them having all the plays that they had, we dominated both sides of the ball and looked like a team that, now I'm thinking, wait a minute, we've been in all 3 games. We lost the first 2. We won this one. I mean, Jay, they very easily could be 3-0 if you think about it.
Yeah.
This team, and
Yeah.
we've been making fun of them. They could very easily be 3-0, and I'm now. I don't want to be one of those, like, we can't all of a sudden, just like with Colorado, we can't all jump on the bandwagon, right? I'm still waiting to see. I know we'll be 4 weeks in after this next week, and I talk about how that first month we're gonna see what this team's about. I'll tell you this much: they're gonna be in a bunch of games. I don't know how many they're gonna win, but this is the first one, and I'm totally surprised.
Now, along those lines, because you mentioned that, I think I went off on a little bit of a rant while you were out, just talking about competitiveness. We want them to be competitive in games, if nothing else, because we don't want to get beat down 70 to what, 6?
We don't want to be the Bears. How about that?
Ooh, okay, yeah, even better, because they're kind
Bears
of
are just totally non-competitive. Now we'll talk on the Easy podcast and stuff like that. We saw a team that totally gave up Denver Broncos. Yesterday. They gave up. I don't think we'll ever, with what I'm saying right now, this team is in it and they'll fight at least, even if they're not going to win games. But we got to win out of this one. This one,
they've started strong, they finished strong, and that's what I think were the changes on the coaching side of things. I think adjustments, making sure to kind of stay the course and continue to call a game, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, they put up 28 points. I think that here's my knock. Here's my knock that I'm going to throw out there. How did you feel about the first? So they get the touchdown, the first touchdown, and then they went for 2. That it could have been 10-3, but it was then 9-3 because they didn't get the 2-point conversion. I thought at that point in time that was I didn't like that decision. And then there's another one that I want to point out to you. But what did you think about that in real time? Because I thought, don't do it. But I could kind of, I wasn't super upset about it, but I didn't like that decision.
It's not necessary, and it's almost like playing with fire. Why do something like that when you got off to a nice start, got the touchdown, and then you want to? It's almost like I remember when they lined up to go for 2. I was like, wait, did I miss a penalty or something? Like they got closer, and I was thinking right along with you, and the fact that it wasn't necessary, and then you put your team. It's almost like you're taking points away from yourself. Those are easy points. You take those, 2 times you go for it. It wasn't necessary, and I don't like it. It was almost like, well, I'm not gonna. It's almost like they were trying to mess it up on purpose, right? And I'm trying not to say that, but it was almost like, well, we scored. What we're supposed to do? Let's go for 2. We're not. I hope to not see that moving forward, because that could actually cost them dearly, because those points come back to haunt you. It seems like they always do, and also, Jay, it's something that takes away from your momentum. You score this touchdown, then all of a sudden it's like, because you can see the players on the side of the field when they when they score and then they miss an extra point kick. It's like, that type of thing. So when you go for it, it's a letdown, even though you should be like really feeling it. So I didn't understand that as well.
All right. And so then the other thing that I wanted to point out, so second quarter, after a Rondale Moore 45-yard run for a touchdown run, they they ended up going. It was 15-3 at that time. So then they went for 2 again. And this time I was really opposed to it because I thought they were chasing points because it would have been, at that point in time, it would have been 10, it would have been 10-3, and then it would have been 16, and then that extra point, then you're 17. I thought that was chasing points when you didn't need to be chasing points. Take the one and keep it moving, and they didn't get that 2-point conversion as well.
Yeah, no, right there with you. I would love to, maybe we have to check out one of these press conferences if someone is, paying attention, if they ask that question. I'd love to hear the philosophy behind going for the first one and the second one, because they would have to be real creative to me in their answer to make me believe anything other than we just acting stupid. We didn't even expect to, be in the game or score that touchdown. So,
Yeah. So, okay. So what's the interesting thing? And this is where those points could have come back to bite them, but they didn't. Again, it was 28-16. So kudos. I'm just pointing out something here. Does it concern you that, so after the first half, one more offensive touchdown, they went for the extra point on this one. So they only scored 7 more points, and that was seven more points after the half, right? And so then the Cowboys, they couldn't really muster anything. They only mustered 6 points in the second half. But does that concern you again? Because it's the second half in terms of on the offensive side of the ball where we don't see that maybe that continued aggression or it was very creative play calling. I thought that, especially in the first half by Petzing. So definitely props to him. But does that concern you? And I'm glad that the defense was able to stay the course and didn't let a building that was overrun with Cowboys fans get into their head. But does the second half inability to generate points concern you?
Well, I once again, I go back to the total number of plays that we ran. We just didn't have the ball in the second half. And part of it was the conservative nature, a couple 3-and-outs and stuff like that. Somehow, though, Jay, they figured out this time around to make it work. Did they get too conservative, or was it a lack of ball touches? I'd have to look and see the go down the I guess the play calling to down the stretch. But I don't know. This one just had a weird feel. It was almost like the Cowboys were sleepwalking, and we didn't want to wake them up somehow. And we just
you can definitely underestimate the opponent, because I'm thinking from the Cowboys, whatever, man, we got this. We saw how they can't. If we do what we do, we'll be fine. And so there was never really that sense of urgency with the Cowboys. Would that be safe to say?
Absolutely. And they actually looked, I bring it up again, they look frustrated and almost like, well, we should be able to just come in here and beat these guys.
Right.
And, Micah Parsons was all over the place. Here's another thing. Cowboys were very undisciplined. There were so many gaps and holes that the Cardinals were running through. And I was watching Parsons, especially when he was on the edge, just flying around the edges, no containment, and actually going past Dobbs to the point where he was on the opposite side of the formation, which left everything open. Actually, they had no discipline, and maybe they just felt like they could come in here and just lay it down. And at one point, just their mighty muscles would beat them. But the Cardinals were the most disciplined team in this game. Stayed to their game plan, and it was another one of those bully got punched in the mouth. And here's I kept looking, at the halftime it was 21-10, and I kept thinking, okay, the first drives of both teams is going to tell me what is going to happen in the second half.
Right.
And the Cowboys, they looked lethargic in the second to start the second half. And sometimes it's just the way it is. This game, from start to finish, there was never a turn, like a switch in the momentum or direction of this game. And you could tell the Cowboys, in my opinion, because I saw them up front and close in person last week, Jay. Yeah. I thought they were going to come in here and drop a 40 on us and hold us to 3 points, that type of thing. They looked just that good. That was not the same team on the field yesterday. And the Cardinals, they looked confident. they looked like they had a game plan, and maybe by slowing things down in the second half, it was almost like the Cowboys just kept in tune with them, dancing, da 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 da. They
Yeah.
just walked them through that game, and next thing you know, it was over. And even that last interception that Dak threw, it was almost like that was destined to happen just because of the way they were playing. I don't know.
So a couple things. So we mentioned in terms of if you, this is why it's almost an enigma of sorts, if that's the right term here. So the time of possession, the Cowboys definitely won the time of possession, 34 minutes and 33 seconds versus the Arizona Cardinals, 25 minutes and 27 seconds. Typically, if you win the time of possession in that way, you're going to be winning the game, and that just wasn't the case. And then if you look at the rushing, in terms of total rushing, Cardinals had 222 yards total rushing, and the Cowboys 185. So you would think that it would be either very close based upon the rushing numbers, or that there would be a sizable lead difference in favor of the Cowboys based upon the time of possession.
Well, this was a game of big plays for the Cardinals on the ground too. Think
Yeah.
about this, Jay. They had Joshua Dobbs had a 44-yard run, did end up in a field goal, but then you had the big one by Rondell Moore. He had a 45-yard run. Connor even had a 26-yard run. The Dallas Cowboys, everything was in front of them. Their longest run was 31, but then you drop down to 13 by Dak Prescott. So, and I mentioned the dink and dunk Prescott. Man, he was just it was like
5.5 average yards per pass for Prescott.
Yeah. And everything was to the side, nothing big down the field. And then when they did try to drop back. So in essence, the Cowboys ran so many more plays than us, but they were so much more ineffective.
Right.
We had the big plays, which turned into scores. And then the rest of it was just, like almost volleying back and forth in the middle of the field. So, the tempo, everything seemed like it was off. This was one of those games. Here's the thing, Jay. If the Cardinals played the Cowboys 10 times, they would probably beat us 9 of those 10 times. This was the one that just, for some reason, the star line, everything was right. The Cardinals just looked that much better than the Cowboys yesterday.
So I want to give the good in the room to improve. So what impressed you most about yesterday? For me, it was the fact that they held on in the second half, because that's been their Achilles heel the first 2 weeks of the season, especially when we look at that Giants game. So I was really impressed by I guess I would say on the defensive side, because I think offensively there's still some things to tweak out. Now, when I get to the opportunities to improve, I'll expand on that a little bit more. But I thought that the overall, especially the defensive side of the ball, they were able to bring home a win by not letting the Cowboys get any type of confidence. To your point, 6 points in the second half, and there was really never a time where they threatened per se, and so they were able to hold them at bay. What about you?
For me, it was the game plan. The game plan said it all. You look at the balance, they didn't need a whole lot of plays, but they ran the ball more than they threw it. They didn't put too much on Joshua Dobbs, even though I think he played a very efficient game. Turnover-wise, we stay away from the turnovers, no interceptions. I'm not sure if we laid anything on the ground either. So for me, it was, and then the fact that they dominated on both sides of the ball for me. So overall, I think it was the game plan outstanding. The fact that they didn't panic and think they had to do anything other than what they were doing. This was one of those games where, it was almost like, hey, what else do we have to do? No, let's just stay right here. Let's just do this. And it worked. And and then on the defensive side of the ball, Jay, I like the fact that they were all up in Dak's grill, and they held the running game respectably, but they were all up in Dak's grill, man. They kept him flustered and just all over the place. And if you can do that, like I said, control both sides of the line of scrimmage, and then get up in the quarterback's face, routinely, that's going to get you some W's, and that was really impressive. I thought that they had a game plan, stuck with it, and here's the other thing, Jay. They looked like the better team yesterday. They really did. This didn't look like a fluke. Like they had to come out with some gadgets and stuff like that, and this was an actual beating of another team, and they looked like the better team.
So to your point, there were one turnover in the game. The Cardinals were turnover free, and then the Cowboys had the turnover. It was an interception thrown by Dak Prescott. So so let's get into the areas of opportunity for the Cardinals. For me, it's the second halves again on the offensive side of the ball, because what I am concerned about is if the Cardinals do not score in the first half, what will they do in the second half? Meaning because what we've seen is, at least over the last two games, I'll say, because the first week of the season, it wasn't a high scoring affair by any means, and there was more field goals that were going on there. But I'll say this is that I wonder if they don't come out focused, because I think I heard on the broadcast a couple of times, and you might agree with this, that you mentioned the game plan. So they came out focused and knowing what they needed to do. And that's what that first half was an example of, was attested to that. But in the second half, they need to be able to figure out if it's adjustments, if they're saying we got it, so we're going to pull back a little bit, whatever it is. From a coaching perspective, they need to be able to push a little bit more, a lot more really, to keep to be able to put some points on the board in the second half of games. What about you?
I would say I agree with you. At the same time, the cautious approach, I think that's how they won this game.
Okay.
I think they, I'm not gonna say they lulled the Cowboys to sleep, but they did, because you got to remember this too, Jay. When they were running the ball, they didn't put in the air a whole bunch. The clock is running, and they were getting the clock to run by being successful on first down. Getting to the third downs, maybe getting the first down, and then it shortened the game for the Cowboys. And in this instance, I don't necessarily think. I'm like, how much more aggressive did you want? This was one of those ones where how much more aggressive did you really want them to be? Because if they get too crazy, you really could let the Cowboys back in this game. So I thought it was a halfway decent approach in the second half. Once again, they shocked us, bro, because I did not see this coming.
And see, that's why I rely upon your eyes. You see the game a little bit different. You say, hold up, Jay, what you want me to do, man? I got this lead, man. Don't have me doing these reverse sweeps and reverse jets and trying to do these flea flickers. So I get it. I understand it. I understand where you're coming from. So Bleav in the Arizona Cardinals. I want to ask a couple of, philosophical questions.
Yes.
To get you thinking a little bit. Does one win equal not tanking? Does one win equal not tanking? Because the players are playing hard. The players aren't going to go in saying, let's tank for so-and-so, because they don't know, because every game is another, adds to your resume, put something on film for whether the organization you're playing for now or the organization you might play for in the future. So players don't care about that. But I'm saying, is Monty Ossenfort looking saying, yeah, all right, well, I guess we had to win one. I mean, does one win equal not tanking?
Well, you got to remember, we talked about this before. Everybody has different agendas. For the GM, he's been told, hey, do what you got to do, to either make this a better team down the line. And if we can get some draft picks, and, that's a far cry from a head coach whose first opportunity.
Yeah.
And these all go on his record. So, hey, GM, do what you do. The coach, his thing is, okay, we end up 2-15. That's going to, that goes on my permanent record. We've seen coaches who have been in those early situations of tanking. They don't, when the remake is done, when they finally the process is done, they don't get to go along for the ride for the, it's almost like being on a long trip, right, Jay? You're going across the country. You keep stopping, making the pit stops and everything like that. And then you almost there to Disneyland. And it's like, well, we got to drop you off right here. We're going to finish the rest of this ride. It's like, wait a minute. I've been driving I've been on this ride. We've been stopping and we've been eating, truck stop sandwiches and stuff all the way through. And now you're
Oh,
going to leave me
man.
and drop me off.
Yeah.
So, and then the other thing is, Jay, I don't care what players are going to play.
Yeah.
Players that if you're talking about changing culture and you got better players, meaning, mentally, and these dudes are out there. You can see they're out there balling because they got no other choice. You could never tell a player to tank. Now you can put bad talent together, and that will just be a tank because it's just bad players. But if you get just decent talent out there, and some of these guys are showing me that they got some dog in them. They're out there, flying around and making hits and joyous about it. And so they're never going to get the players to lay down. You better go get some bad players if you want them to tank. So, and remember, Jay, it is only one win.
Yeah.
We'll see where they go from here. But this team looks like,
you can build upon that. You can at least build upon let's do what that effort that we put in from coaches and players. Let's do that again this week in preparation so that we can execute in the next game.
And the one thing we did say, Jay, we didn't even think it was about the wins. It was about how the team looked, what they were, how they were losing, if they were losing. Like if you're losing like the Broncos, that would be cause for. I know we let a lot of guys go on training camp. We might have to call some of those dudes back up and get them in here because what we just saw, a team just laid down, just literally laid down and said, you don't have to fight for it here. I'm just going to give it to you. That type of thing. That's what you don't want to see. And we don't see that from these Cardinals.
So speaking of what we saw, so again, I want your thoughts before we head out about home field advantage or disadvantage. But what do Joshua Dobbs? He's not a world beater, but I think he did just enough. He made some plays. I mean, 178 passing yards, so he didn't put the world on fire. But maybe to your point, it was a matter of the game plan and what we're going to do. I was impressed with what he did. He's that guy that can get you through while you're waiting for your starting quarterback to come. But you should be able to feel comfortable enough that he can manage a few weeks to be able to get you through. What about you?
I had somebody text me yesterday after the game. Do you think Kyler's going to get his job back? I'm like, come on.
Come on now.
This is one of those. Joshua is doing a great job, and he's setting himself up for, if nothing else, let's say Kyler does come back, because it reports, I've heard people, he's getting close, and obviously we're getting to week 4 here. After week 4, he'll be eligible to come off the pup. So say in 6 weeks, after week 5, he's ready to go. And the plan is to get him out there. It's his job. And Joshua will be a great backup, and he might have stamped his, think about it, he stamped himself as having a job somewhere, even if it's not here with the Cardinals, for a very long time. Just in a even more dramatic. Think about what Purdy's done for himself. He said if all crumbles here, he's going to get another opportunity somewhere to fight for a starting job. Joshua Dobbs has now made it where when the dust settles, and I don't consider him a franchise quarterback, but he'll be able to feed his family for the next 7 to 10 years. Doing his job as a backup. And there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely not. There's no slight in that, Jay. It's one of the best jobs in the world. Backup quarterback in the NFL. You play you throw during the week, you get your work in, then you got the earpiece on Saturdays, hoping that dude in front of you doesn't go down. Because every Monday, you know what happens? That those decimal points in your bank account go up. And you put in your work, and that's all it's about. I mean, you'd love to be a starter somewhere, but it's even better if you're not a starter to be a backup and not working at Best Buy or something like that.
Speak on it. Speak on it. So leave me with this. So the Cardinals, if we're looking at their schedule, they play, they're going on the road to play the 49ers. When they come back, and guess what game I'll be at? I'm going to another one. I'm going to the Bengals game. So when they come and play the Bengals, will there be will there be a stronger turnout of Cardinal fans? Because I don't know if the Bengals have necessarily the biggest contingent of people coming on the road, or will there be Cardinals fans dressed up as empty seats? So do we think that we'll see a little bit more of interest and energy in the building for the game against the Bengals when they come back home?
I think people. I'm not. Here's the thing, Jay. This is not, and I'm not saying this with to knock anything out. This isn't a playoff or championship team.
Correct.
But if you're coming to look at good football and some dudes out there giving it their all and making it respectable, and here they are, they're 1-2, but they've been in every one of these games.
Yep.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. They're building. So why wouldn't you come out? And so if you're a true fan, why would you not come out and support your team during these lean times? As long as they're giving you what you deserve. They're making, they're now imagine this, Jay. What we just saw from Denver, who the hell is going to come out and watch that team at home or on the road?
Oh, my goodness.
You just got a 70 burger dropped on you. You saw players. If I was watching that, bruh, I would love to be in that film room watching that tape today because there are going to be so many rewinds and so many, the little red dot on the screen. I want you all to watch this right here. I want you to watch this in shame right here. And not just this dude, but this dude and this dude. And I'm going to go through, especially on the defensive side.
Right.
We're going to rewatch this. And, there's no, like I said, there's none of that going on out here in the desert. So I'm hoping, and, Cincinnati, my nephew, he's dinged up right now, but, we're hoping to be at the game as well on that day. I hope that the fans, from what I'm seeing, I'm hoping they come out and support this team because they deserve the support. We've been here before when it was like, what is that garbage they're putting out there? Why would anybody pay money to go see that? Our fans, Cardinals fans, Red Sea, whatever, you need to be out here supporting this team because it looks like they're heading in the right direction. And they're, they're at least entertaining you while they're between the lines. And you never know, they might get you another few W's out here.
Indeed. So on behalf of the one and only Ed Smith, I am Javon Adams. We do this thing on Mondays and Thursdays. Mondays, we look back on the game that just took place. Thursdays, we look ahead to the next opponent. So make sure you tell a friend about what we have going on here at Bleav in the Arizona Cardinals, or if you search Bleav in Cardinals, whatever you do. And of course, we're presented by Bet Online. And as we always like to say around this time, you can.